Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Amy Carr Hilton and I know firsthand the hardships of figuring out how to recover from chronic pain and other chronic symptoms on our own. So I'm inviting you here to explore our pain mastery together because it is you who has the greatest power to influence your own pain healing. And I really want to share this experience with you.
All right, so how do we implement the 4 elements of care into our daily lives? So let's first take a look at compassion toward ourselves. This was maybe the hardest part for me. I'm extraordinarily hard on myself. My partner has even said that I'm the hardest on myself of anyone he's met, and that's huge because he's also a major perfectionist. And I'm still working on this every single day. So how this shows up in my life, and likely in yours as well, is how we hope to be seen by others. Now, I just want to be clear, this is not so much an ego thing. It's not about being the best at something or the prettiest or the smartest. It's about believing, like an internal belief that we are of value to our social groups, our family, our workplace, our friends, our community. If we have trouble believing we are of value, we are constantly in a state of social threat. The monkey without value in the community does not get the bananas. I like bananas. So how do we go from believing we have little value to being compassionate toward ourselves? We need to look at the behaviors that come from devaluing ourselves and flip them. So when you find yourself criticizing the cupcakes you baked for your daughter's bake sale, you need to flip that. Reframe that into a compassionate thought like, wow, that was really nice of me to spend an hour baking these. I'm a good mom. When you find yourself debating staying late at work to get a project done when no one else is stepping up to take on the burden, remind yourself that you've worked just as hard on this as everyone else and you deserve a break too. When you're beating yourself up for being able to do less than you would like or not able to keep up with your friends, then reframe that to celebrating what you can do. So I remember the very day I chose to listen to my own advice and bring more compassion into my days. So after dealing with months of difficulty mountain biking because of heart rate increase and fatigue from anxiety attacks, I decided to go for a ride with a bunch of guy friends who are way faster than me at the best of times. I was nervous before going because I felt like I wasn't going to be able to keep up. I was going to hold everyone back. I had nothing of value to offer the group. And before heading out, I told myself, you deserve to have fun, and your friends love spending time with you no matter how fast or slow you are. And you know what? As I panted my way up to the last stretch of the top climb, I could hear everyone laughing and joking around, and I realized that it didn't matter how good or strong or fit or fast I was. I was happy to be there, I was welcome, and the only thing that had been holding me back was my lack of self-compassion. And this is a nice segue into awareness of our pain experience context. Remember the violinist with the broken index finger? That's pretty major context, right? And we've all had some experience of our pain being greater because of the context we're in, but often we're not aware of it. So have you ever been somewhere having fun, not thinking about your pain, and so distracted by joy that you're not anticipating when pain is going to come on? Only to have a great time and realize the next day that you should have had pain while doing that thing. So I had this happen. I used to get low back pain and hip pain while commuting for work. I hated commuting. I hated being on the highway I had to drive. I hated how aggressive everyone was on the road. I hated the clinic I was working at. The chiropractor owner was creepy, salesy to his patients, controlling of my schedule. I was an independent contractor, and I didn't trust him at all. And then one day I went on a road trip with my partner. We left really early in the morning. I was so busy, last minute packing and excited about our trip. I didn't even have time to think about pain while driving. So this is an example of the context in which we feel pain. And in Empowered Pain Mastery, we actually break it down step by step, week by week. We look at where all the factors are in our lives that we have a greater context for pain. And these are some of the things you can do now to get this started. Notice the people, the places, the activities, things, and thoughts you have that you tend to avoid. Take a look at these things and see if there's anything you can change about them to take them from a danger context to a safety context. When you notice you don't like being at work when your boss is there because they yell or they put people down, see if you can change your communication style, or if that's not going to work, see if you can opt to work from home on the days they're around. And when you notice you tend to avoid a trail you broke your ankle on, see if you can change your beliefs around the trail. The trail is just a trail. It's not inherently dangerous. Accidents happen. Now, some people and places we have in our lives, we don't actually have the power to get rid of, but sometimes we can change our perspective, like the boss yelling thing. Writing down a list of the things we wish we could avoid will give us some insight, and sometimes just knowing it's just because I don't like my boss can be enough to have a little giggle at how fickle our brain can be with its protective alerts. And that laugh can minimize our context. So adding things into your context that help you feel safe can also be helpful. I started getting pickier about the music I played while on my commute, and I chose music that makes me happy. And I was also lucky enough to be able to move to a different clinic, and what do you know? Still same commute, but no more back and hip pain. So with safety reassurance, we need to stop trying to fix our body. Plain and simple. Stop trying to fix your body. It's just not possible to reassure your physical safety when you're trying to change something about your body to fix your pain. And this doesn't mean you can't go for that massage, but choose intentionally and participate in your treatment through a lens of safety. Go for your massages, but don't make it about fixing your headaches or your back or your hip or your shoulder. Make it about a nervous system treat and use the opportunity to get really in tune with sensation in your body. Go to your physio appointment, but forget changing the position of your pelvis to fix that pain around your SI joint. That's total bullshit. Instead, let it be about improving your performance or strength in an area you want to see that improvement. It's not fixing a broken body, it's just working on your performance, working on feeling strong in your body. So also watch for signs that your symptoms are neuroplastic. Behaviors like sensation moving around in the body, turning on and off with innocuous stimulus like the weather, certain clothing, smells, or light touch, pain that grows larger or smaller or shows up equally on both sides, sensation being greater in times of stress and less in times of joy is also a sign of neuroplastic symptoms. Knowing our symptoms are neuroplastic makes safety reassurance possible because it's clear indication that it's not coming from your body, it's just felt in your body. It's just your brain trying to get your attention and using the best way it knows how to do that and get that pain alert to you. So you'll remember my example of side bending in yoga causing me that searing pain. When I realized that I could side bend without thinking about it and be totally fine, but anytime I was intentionally side bending to the right, I would spiral into rumination and I would watch sensation in my body intensely, just waiting for the bad thing to happen there. This does not make sense for a structural problem. It's clearly a sign of neuroplastic behavior. If my intensity of watching and my worry was creating pain when if I'm not thinking about it, I do the same movement, I get no pain, that's neuroplastic. So once you trust that you're physically safe and you're open to feeling and being with the sensations of emotions, then you can work on exposure to your triggers. And this is a process. You have to have patience with it. The awareness of your context process will help you find your triggers if you've previously thought it was all random. And when we establish our triggers, we can start to decondition our pain alerts through a gradual exposure to them. So remember when you get into this that it's not about fitness, strength, or mobility. That'll all come later. Don't worry about that for now. This is about teaching your brain to recognize your safety in connection to the thing that was previously a trigger. So the best place to start with this is at a level of exposure that you know is within your safe and soar zone. There's going to be some discomfort. That is part of the package. We aren't pushing through pain. We're not gonna just do what we want to do even though there's pain. We're going to expose ourselves to a little bit of something that might correlate with our pain. So we're exploring a trigger with curiosity and indifference to the outcome, not expecting that we're gonna do this thing and we'll have no pain after, because that's just asking for heartache. We're going to do this thing, expose ourselves a little tiny bit to a trigger that might cause us to feel some pain. We might have some soreness, but we're going to do it while we reassure our brain that we're safe, and we're going to have no expectations about what's going to happen. We're just going to be curious, and we're going to watch, and we're going to learn. So by exploring sensation with curiosity and knowing we're perfectly safe, even with some discomfort during triggers, we are deconditioning the danger alerts that have been connected to those triggers. So slowly increasing the amount of exposure to that piece of clothing, that pillow, that position, that food, that smell, that movement, all of those triggers that you figure out are in your life, in your context, will get you back to a point of being able to have that in your life without worrying about it being a pain trigger. So I had this experience with my yoga side bending, but I have more examples of this happening in my life. I was wearing a pair of high lace-up boots the last time I dislocated my kneecap, my patella. This is 5 years ago. I had recurring pain that I was not ready to trust was neuroplastic. But then when I really stopped to look at the behavior of my pain, I realized it was inconsistent. Sometimes it's easier just to believe that it's a physical problem and ask someone else to fix it for us. But when it's neuroplastic pain, it comes down to it has to come to us. We have to heal it ourselves. That's all there is to it. So with my knee, I realized it was inconsistent. It would hurt sometimes when I was active, sometimes when I was at rest. Not always when I was active, not always when I was at rest. One thing that was consistent was that it always hurt when I wore those boots. The boots were my trigger, and I have to admit, I had trouble really trusting that it was neuroplastic, even though I was well into doing this work for myself and for my clients already. So I had to step back from my subjective experience, and I had to look at things objectively. Objectively, I considered whether the boots could be restricting ankle mobility and causing too much twisting to happen at the knee instead of the ankle. I thought maybe the stiff sole was also contributing in some way. Basically, I ran through all the fears of physical concerns that we do when we have pain. And then I realized none of them made sense. Those boots only started hurting my knee after the most recent dislocation, not before. I knew the tissues were healed. The only reasonable explanation was that it was a conditioned trigger to the boots. So I deconditioned the danger alert neural pathway. And this is how I did it. I started out by putting the boots on for just a minute while sitting in a chair in the safety of my own home, didn't even stand up. And I practiced safety reassurance, compassion for myself, even through doubt that this was going to work. And I worked on minimizing the context in which I might feel pain. So some of that context for me included icy ground because it was ice that the original injury happened. And when I was sure that wearing the boots was considered safe by my brain inside my home without even standing up, I upped the exposure. I started wearing the boots in the house for a few minutes at a time, just chopping up some vegetables in the kitchen, maybe running up and down the stairs a couple times. And then finally, I took it outside and I took it to ice and snow for longer and longer walks. And it worked! This shit works, y'all!